Welcome back with another payment video. In this video, I'm going to show you how I created a wallet app with an auto top-up functionality. You can add cards and top up using those cards manually or automatically. And here's a demo. This is the app, the template app that I created. What I did basically is that I integrated Cybersource APIs with this app to give it the auto top-up functionality using the customer-initiated transactions, merchant-initiated transactions framework, which I covered in a previous video. Link in the description box below or one of these cards on the screen. So anyways, here's the demo app. I can click here. I'm gonna get a form that allows me to add a card to my wallet. And I can go ahead and add a card. By the way, this form here is implemented using Cybersource microform solution. I have also a video on that, link in the description box below. I hit add to wallet. I'm gonna get 3DS because if you're a wallet merchant, you always should use 3DS to authenticate the user when they are adding the card for the first time into your app. Here's the 3DS page, still within the app. I enter the OTP, hit submit, and then I'm gonna get a message that says card has been added. There you go. Then this gets dismissed. And then my card is added into the wallet like this. And it's selected, because it's my first card, it's selected as a default card. And if you check my database, here in my database, this is me, my user document, my card sub-collection. And here I store the card token, a flag that says this is default, and the previous transaction ID. This is the network ID for a transaction. You need to store this if you're gonna be doing merchant-initiated transactions on your app, like a wallet app. That's a must to do that. So in this app, I can do manual top up. I set the amount, and then here it says it's going to be using this card, and I hit confirm. Again, and then it's going to send an API request to Cybersource. Cybersource responds, and then here's the confirmation that my top up is successful. And then here I can set the auto top up rule. Here I can say that when my balance falls below, let's say 30, auto top up by 50, let's say. Hit save. The rules is saved. And now here I have a button that's simulate spend so that I can trigger the auto top up. So here, more, let's go under 30. Now my balance is under 30. An automatic top up has been triggered. An API payment request is sent to Cybersource. Cybersource responds with approval, and another 50 is automatically added into my balance. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to add the card into the wallet and authenticate like I showed you. I'm gonna give a high-level overview of how that is done on an app like this. Is the React Native app. And then I have other videos that goes into the detail of how to do 3DS, how to do microform, how to do card and file, and so on, how to tokenize. So all this I have in previous videos. In this video, I'm just gonna focus on how to trigger auto top-up in your wallet app. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with a brand new project that doesn't have this implemented in it. Okay, there you go. Here we're starting with an app that doesn't have the ability to load the card details from Cybersource, the cards that are stored in my server. This is the card that is trying to load, but it's able to get the token, as you can see here in the console, in the Xcode console, but when it can't get much out of that, so it's showing up like this. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create a method here that gets the card details so we can display it properly here. And we covered this in a previous video. This would be implemented like this. This API call would take the token, append it to the URL as a, right after the slash, we get the token ID, which is this one over here. And then we initialize our Cybersource variables, and then we send a request to Cybersource on this path, TMS v2 / customer / the customer token. And then that GET request will return to us the details of the card. But I'm also here checking if the card is a default card. So I go access my database using that token. I go to this path, user cards, card token number, and then here I have a flag that says default. So I get that variable and I store it here. And then I get the brand type of the card. This is returned in the response in data, embedded, default instrument, card type. Let me show you what that looks like. Here it is in Postman. I make a call using this endpoint, and I use the customer ID here, the customer token ID here. And then from here, I get the expiry, the year, the card type, and then I translate the card type to the brand name. So if it's 001, Visa, 002, MasterCard 3, Amex. I also have customer details stored if I wanted to use them. And I also get the last 4 digits and the first 6 digits. I also have this, the previous transaction ID, which I can use for my merchant initiated transactions. Anyways, I use this to get these details like this, and then I get all of them together if the card's default, the brand name, the month, the year, the last 4 digits, and the first 6 digits, the BIN. And then I return that to my client side. So that'd be my first API. And then the first API that you saw earlier, which gets the list of the tokens that the user has stored, is this one. I make this API call and it gets an array of token strings that looks like this. I only have 1 card stored through, so therefore 1 token. This API just looks like this. I just query my database, I get the document ID of each document that is stored there, and I return it to the client side. Anyways, I'll use this API to get the card details for each token, and I'll implement it here. And the payload response for this would look like this. And the payload would look like this. I get the card brand, month, year, last first 6 digits, and I get a flag that says if it's default or true, if it's default or not, which will allow me in the app to select the card by default and use it in everything, so that the user does not have to select it every time they top up. That will make my front end looks like this instead, which is nice. Now let's delete this token and show you how to add a card to the wallet. Okay, now let's talk about adding the card into the wallet. So let's start with a fresh wallet that doesn't have anything in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete my saved card from the database. Okay, now so my wallet app now does not have any card saved in it. Now I can demonstrate to you guys how we can implement saving a card to the wallet. Now I'm gonna click on tap here to add new card. I'm gonna get this module, this modal. And I'm gonna enter my card information, and then it's gonna perform a payment. This web view is a React.js web view. This is a React.js page rendered within a web view. And the code for it here. I covered how to implement this web view to add microform inside a React Native app in my previous video, link in the description box below. Check that out to learn how to embed microform into your React Native app. So this is the same as that. Now here in my code, after all the 3DS things are done, here I'll send the payment. And I'll pass my transient token, amount, currency, authentication data. And then here, I'm gonna return to my React Native app a result that says if it's approved, then success. If its card is not added, then failed. And then my React app is gonna handle that accordingly. So here I need to implement an API that pays, reverse the payment, save the token to the wallet. I'll implement that here in the add card CIT endpoint. Again, we need to initialize our keys and merchant ID and host like this. Get the input from the client side. Create a placeholder for the reversal API call. And then send the payment and tokenization and save card to database like this. Here I create a random order ID. I send my payment request, and inside my payment request, I'm gonna signal this is gonna be a card on file transaction. Here I'm gonna ask Cybersource to tokenize the card information. This is just a regular payment API. And then Cybersource is going to return a URL for reversing the transaction that you just did. So we get that here, and we're going to do it later. But first, here we saving the card information to the database. So my user ID is Nawaf. In my database, there's a sub-collection for my user, Nawaf. Inside there, I'm going to save my token ID, the token that was created, and the previous transaction ID so that I can trigger merchant initiated transactions later. And then here, I'm going to check if this is the first card that the user has added to the wallet. If it is, then I'm going to set this card as the default card to be used in the app. So this is what I will store in the database, and I'll save it like this. Now I need to reverse that $1 verification transaction. And this can be done like this. I generate a random reference ID for it like this. This is the payload, and this is the request path that I got from the previous API call, and I send it. And then if the reversal is successful, I return card added to the client side. If not, I also return card added because it's just a $1, and if it's not captured, it's going to get refunded automatically after 10 days or 7 days to the card holder. Okay, so this is my add card CIT call. I'm going to use that in my React Native app now. Here's my add card CIT endpoint. I'll put it here, and then now I'm going to test if it works in my React Native app. Let's go ahead and try and add a card. We get 3DS, We complete 3DS, submit, and we should see card added. There you go. Now this gets closed. My wallet is going to refresh and show the card now. Go. Next step, we need to implement the merchant initiated transaction API call that's going to be used for top-ups, manual and auto top-ups. So this will be a regular looking Cybersource payment API that looks like this. You'll pay using your token here, the top-up amount, the previous transaction ID, which you stored from the customer initiated transaction. This will be here in your database associated against the token, like this one. And 7 reason to indicate that it's a recurring transaction. And here we say that it's a stored card initiated by the merchant, recurring, just terminology, and a unique code. So we need to implement this API request right here. This will simply look very much like the customer initiated transaction, except first I'm gonna get the amount and the currency from the client side, generate a random order ID. Then I'm gonna get the default card that the user have. Here in my database, I get all the cards collection reference, and then I query for the card that has default set to true. And I'll limit the response to 1 document because there's only 1 default card. I get that. And then I get the previous transaction ID associated against that default card. And then I put it in my request here. I put the token here, amount from the client, currency from the client side, and my random order ID generated in the beginning here. Then I send it. This is my headers. These are my headers. And then I send the response back to my client side. Now let's go ahead and implement this in our client side. Okay, my endpoint got deployed. Now, when a top-up happened in my app, whether it's manual or auto, I have this callback here called handle top-up. This gets called when the user confirmed top-up in the manual top-up like this. And also here inside my components use effect method, here I have this thing. This thing runs every time the balance is changed. So when it goes below 50, for example. So whenever the balance changes because of a transaction that happened within the app, a payment, this is gonna run. And here inside this, I'm gonna get the user tokens to refresh them. And also I'm gonna check if there's a card selected and check if there's a valid minimum threshold set beyond 0. Set if there's an auto top-up amount set, check if there's an auto top-up amount that is set, and then check if the balance fell below the minimum threshold that the user set for the auto top-up. And then here, I'm gonna call this method, handle top-up. Handle top-up gets called here. If the user does not have a card selected, or they don't have a default card, then here I'm gonna tell them to select a card. If the amount is something like 0, then I'm gonna throw an error. If not, then here, I'm gonna call the API for the merchant initiated transaction, which will be a simple call like this. I'm going to send that merchant initiated transaction request to Cybersource, and the Cybersource is going to return a response. If the response is successful, then I'm going to update the balance with the new amount. If not, then I'm going to throw an error. So let's test that in the app and see what that looks like. Here's the top up, manual, 100, confirm, and top up is working. And then here's a, let's set the auto top up. Let's make the minimum threshold is 100. When it goes below that, then I want to top up with another 100. Save. And now, when I simulate spend, to make it go below 100, it's gonna trigger an auto top up of $100 as soon as the amount goes below 100, like this. There you go. And when that top up happened, that was an API call to my server, which then called Cybersource to initiate a merchant transaction request. And in that payment request, that merchant initiated transaction request, we indicate that the payment was initiated by the merchant, and we send the previous transaction ID to show them that there was an agreement by the user when they added the card to let the merchant auto top up. And this is how to implement wallet auto top ups using Cybersource payment APIs. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit like, subscribe for more videos like this. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And if you want the source code that we used in this demo, support us on the Patreon link below. When you support us, you get the source code that we use in our videos as a thank you. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.